In this video, I want to go through the omegamouse.talon file. If you're on a Windows machine, you can find that under Users, App Data, Roaming, Talon User, and then the Omega Mouse project file you probably would have installed before this video. Now this file contains all of the voice commands available for Omega Mouse. If you're new to Talon files, you'll see that the words before the colon are the words that you speak. That's the voice command, and then what comes after the colon is the rule or the behavior that occurs when you speak this. You can probably see that there are a lot of pound signs throughout this file, and that can be maybe a bit confusing, so I wanted to make this video to kind of help explain what's going on. The pound sign tells Talon to treat this line as a comment and to ignore it and not try to interpret it as code. Lines 1, 11, and 19, you can probably tell, are just sort of headers to help organize the different voice commands in this file. And then lines 3 through 6 provide a description and some options for what can be done with line 7, which is not pounded out and is an actual setting that you can change. Now, the pound signs in the voice command area down here might be a bit messy, but they are there so that every voice command for Omega Mouse can be listed in this one file. So just know that even though these voice commands are commented out, they are actually legitimate commands you can use with Omega Mouse. The voice commands without a pound sign, such as these, or twill, or reload, are actual voice commands that are being defined in this file. Now, the voice commands with a pound sign are voice commands that are not defined in this file. They're defined in a file elsewhere, like in the community repo, and Omega Mouse, in its Python code, overrides those voice actions to do what Omega Mouse needs to do with them. And you'll see that for all of these pound-signed commands, instead of having a function that occurs afterwards, I've just used some brackets and sort of wrote out a little description of what happens instead. So, the top section here is the mode selection setting. This is where you change which version of Omega Mouse you want to use. There's full mode, light mode, and basic mode, and then they each have their respective number value. Right now, this is set to be using full mode. If you were to change this to 1, it would be using light mode. Now, in order for this to work, you have to save the file, and then the next time you open up Omega Mouse, it will capture this value, and it will start using that version. If you have Omega Mouse on already, and then you make the change and save the file, you will have to restart Omega Mouse so that it can actually capture the change, which you can see I wrote here. Now, the behavior of the different voice commands depends on what version or value you're using here. So you can look at the README file or a previous video I did to maybe learn about what each of these things do. This next section is just the sort of housekeeping voice commands that toggle Omega Mouse on and off. So this voice command Omega Mouse will toggle Omega Mouse on if Omega Mouse is off, and if Omega Mouse is already on, it will turn it off. Omega Restart will reset Omega Mouse back to its initial states, and you can use this to recapture the setting that you put here. Control Mouse and Zoom Mouse will switch to Control Mouse and Zoom Mouse, but in order for Omega Mouse to turn off properly, you will need to make sure it's set up correctly. So for that, you can look at the README or a previous video I did. An important point to remember is that you have to use the voice commands when switching out of Omega Mouse in order for it to close properly. If you use the Talon menu, you will bypass the code needed to do this. Now, these voice commands here basically all change slightly depending on the mode that you're using. So I won't get into each variation of them, but I'll just get into sort of generally what's going on. So a popping noise really depends on which version you're using. In full mode, it uses 2-phase clicking. In light and basic modes, it just moves the cursor. Yum and gum are 2 words you can use to left click in any of the modes. Yummer and gummer are left clicks and also releases any modifier keys that were pressed. Could be useful if you're doing a shift selection and on the last click you want to release the modifier keys. Twill is a double click. Reload is only used in full mode, and once you've done your first pop and you're in the head tracking mode, Reload will allow you to move the cursor to the area you're looking if your head mouse can't get over there enough. Drag simply starts a left mouse click and hold, and actually it releases all mouse buttons before that. Drop is another word you can use to enact the mouse drag end function. So you can use drag end and drag. These two are the Talon community repo defaults. You can also use drop, which we have here, to release all mouse buttons. So drag and drop. Omega check state will print out the values of variables in the Talon view logger, and wait will freeze the cursor if it is currently moving in any of the modes. And these 2 functions work the same in all 3 modes. So that's an overview of the omega mouse.talon file. I hope that it was helpful, and thanks for watching.